Hey guys, so I did get an awesome performance of this trick for you guys, but unfortunately it lost audio, but it was so good I wanted to use it anyway, so I'll just narrate over it for you guys. As you can see here, Spectator 1 gives the deck a quick shuffle. So I explained to him that in a second I'm going to have him think of one of the cards that he sees, alright? So I go through the cards and he gets one that he's just thinking of in his head. I turn to Spectator 2 and tell him that, of course, he could be thinking of any one of those cards, and I want him to try to guess which card his friend is thinking of. Try to read him, look at him, and try to get a sense of what card he might be thinking of. At this point, I think he's got it, so he reaches in, touches one card, whichever card he feels like. I show him that card, and he takes it out of the deck. And for the first time, Spectator number 1 reveals he's thinking of the 5 of diamonds, and we have a perfect match and a great reaction. Oh my god, you're the best magician ever, whoa! What is good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to a super dope video. I just wanted to point out we're in the new setup here. We've got the Madison mirror. It won't be slowed down, or it won't be behind because I don't know how to do that. We got the new merch too. We got the pink colorway. We got a bunch of new black ones. We got a couple of new special edition colorways too. Logo's bigger on this one. It looks pretty damn sick. I don't know, like, is merch something you guys would want at this point? Like, do you like these shirts? Because they're not for sale officially. I mean, people have asked and I've sent people some shirts and people have bought some, but like I don't have a website for them or anything. Is that something you guys would be interested in? Because we could make it happen. I don't know. I think they're pretty sick shirts. I love the black one. The pink one's pretty sick too. But let me know what you guys think. Welcome to the new setup, guys. We got the new camera. First time I'm filming on it. We got, everything's new here, like new mic, everything. So hopefully, up the quality. I haven't filmed on this yet, like tutorials or anything. To be honest, I haven't filmed a new tutorial in like 2 months because I just had so much backlog content that I wanted to get out and kind of clear up. I'm just sitting down to film for the first time in 2 months, so I apologize if I'm a little rusty. But yeah, new camera, new mic for the first time. So hopefully it looks okay, looks good. I'm still getting the hang of it, but a lot of nice little upgrades to the channel, and I got a lot of great tutorials coming, so stay tuned for that. Keep up the street magic and all that stuff, so let me know what you guys want to see. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys one of my favorite tricks to do recently, something that I put together in the last couple of months, but I've been out there performing it like crazy, because the reactions it gets is so amazing, especially for how easy it is. Now, this is going to use a technique that I taught in one of the last videos, so make sure you go check that out. We're going to be using the visual dribble force, and this is going to allow you to perform an amazing effect where one spectator just thinks of a playing card, the other spectator reads their mind and knows exactly what playing card they're thinking of. It's an amazing effect. This person never says what card they're thinking of, and then you can have them both say the card out loud, or have him show the card, whatever it happens to be, and they both say the same card, or they both show the same card, or however you want to do it, but it is such a killer effect, right? It's simple, it's killer. I was inspired for this idea by a trick I saw on Alex Boyer's channel. Go check out his channel. A long time ago, he had like a 1-minute video. It was basically this exact effect, and then I worked out my own method for it, and it is so killer. Like one of those simple tricks, like a transpo, where you put the card in their hand and it switches for the card in your hand. Just so strong, and it's pretty easy to do. Now, using that force, if you've watched the video already, you might feel like there's a bit of a risk involved, but don't worry. At the end of the video, I'm going to teach you all the little subtleties, and I'm going to go into this really nice scripting and routining that I've worked into it, so that this routine is 100% foolproof, just in case you have a problem with that first force. But when you nail that force, which should be 99% of the time once you practice it a bit, man, is this trick killer. So this is a trick I call mind reader. You know, they're reading each other's mind reader. It's a very simple name. Probably could have came up with a better name, but that's what it's called in my notes right now. So without any further ado, let's get into mind reader. Let's get into the breakdown. All right, guys. So I hope this looks okay. From what I can tell, it'll look good. But again, this is on the new setup, so I'm hoping this looks pretty good. So from the performance that you hopefully will have seen, you can see just how powerful this trick is by their reactions. Now the clip I showed unfortunately lost audio, but you can get the idea of how strong that trick is and how it kind of looks and how it's quick, really strong hitting. So this trick is awesome. It uses a regular shuffled deck of cards like most of my tricks tend to. So this trick again is very easy to do, and if you've already kind of put together the method, especially after me telling you the force that we're using from the last video, don't, you know, skip ahead and put this off yet, because they're going to teach you some really nice nuances and subtleties to make this even stronger. So once you have your two participants selected, the first thing you want to do is figure out who you're going to do the force on. So we're going to be using what I call the visual dribble force. So again, check out the video that I had linked earlier on, and that'll be a very in-depth tutorial on how that works. So essentially, what it looks like and allows you to do is force a thought of card just by dribbling the cards and having them think of one that they see. So quickly, the mechanics on that is you're going to start face down. You're going to start the dribble. As you come up, you pause for a second, a real quick second, and you come back down. And all you do is watch the deck, and whichever card you see that it stops at is going to be the force card, right? In this trick, it doesn't matter what the force card is. So you're just watching just as much as they are, and you get that force card, right? So you want to pick who you're going to do this on. Now, some of my tips, right? This is important who you pick. You want to pick the person of the two that you feel lacks confidence, the person who's a bit more shy. If I'm being honest, the one who seems like more of an airhead, okay? And there's an important reason for this. It just helps with the hit rate of this force. I talked about a lot in that video, which again, make sure you go check. That was just a brief explanation. That really doesn't cover all the mechanics and nuances and little subtleties to really get this force to hit. And what that will do, with the combination of a few other techniques that I'll talk about in a second, it'll put this person in a vulnerable state. Now, if they're shy and that sort of thing, it'll be even easier. So once you pick the person that's more vulnerable, feeling more shy, you just kind of use your intuition. It doesn't matter, but I find it helps, and I'll explain why in a second. Because coupled with the other techniques, it kind of all plays in. So first you're going to let them shuffle the deck, whoever you want. This, it doesn't matter which spectator shuffles, but you want the deck to be nice and shuffled. And you're basically going to force a card on them using the visual dribble force. But you're going to play this off as a thought of card. So what you would say is, in a second I'm going to go through all the cards just like this, and I just want you to think of one that you see. Okay, this is very important, this scripting, right? You really want to emphasize think of one that you see, so that they don't just think of one and make one up. And the fact that you emphasize think of one that you see is really going to make this feel like a thought of card later, right? Because to be honest, we're trying to make this seem like they just thought of a card, even without this part. So that, you know, that's how we can make this effect as strong as possible. Also, when you say that, you're going to do a nice slow dribble where all the card faces are roughly visible, right? So I say you're just going to think of one that you see. Psychologically later, that's going to make it feel like they saw every card, right? Now, here's what you do. Here's the key moment. When they say they're ready and you go, you're going to kind of tilt your body like this so you can also see everything that's going on, because you need to figure out what the force card is too. But the first time you do it, you're going to do this. Right? You go super quick. So there's no way that they could see a card there. You don't even need to really lift this hand much. You just kind of, and then you say, did you get one? Okay, and this is very important. What this does is it will make them say no. And this will put them in a vulnerable state. I explained this in the visual dribble force video, but this is very key. So the first time you do it, right? So you say, I just want you to think of one that you see. And you say, all right, you're ready? They say yes. You say, all right. Did you get one? And they'll say no, because it's impossible. They couldn't have got one, right? This is wonderful. People want the tricks to work generally, right? Most people aren't trying to stump you. And even if they are, what this does is it puts them at a vulnerable state. They'll feel like, I should have been able to see a card. If he's asking me, he must have done this before. And people must have seen cards before, so why can't I see a card? They'll almost feel a little stupid or something like that. They'll feel, you know, a little, like vulnerable is the best word. They'll be like, why didn't I see a card? What's wrong with me, sort of thing. This does a couple of things for us. One, it makes them willing, it makes them susceptible to take whatever card they can see next time, right? Well, next time, whatever card they see, they're just going to take, because one, they don't want to ruin the trick, right? And all the pressure is on them to see a card, because if they don't see a card, they're going to ruin the trick. Two, it puts that pressure on them to see a card, so they're going to be, trying as hard as they can just to get a glimpse of one. The other great thing it does is it's a great justification. If you just did this, right, and you force, I think that was a 6 of clubs, I wasn't really looking, but you let's say it was a 6 of clubs, you force. You might have that analytical or smart person, and this is why it's also nice to pick the airhead type, because they're less likely to pick up on this, but again, this will circumvent that anyway. This is a very clean justification for that. If you were to just do it one time, you might get the type, unlikely, but you might, layman, there's some laymen who would think about this, where they think, well, I only saw one card anyway. Like they'll get that, and this is the big fear when people do this kind of force, where someone will think, well, I only saw one card anyway. And it could happen, it's unlikely, but you could get the analytical type and they'll say, well, I really only saw one card anyway. Most of the time, honestly, they'll just keep that to themselves, so it's almost like a dual reality. It'll be amazing for everyone else. For them, it'll be a little bit less amazing, but they still want to understand how the next part works, and so it'll still be a cool trick, right? But this justification now totally kills that, right? Because if you do it once fast, it puts in their mind that it is difficult to see a card when you do this. If they couldn't see one the first time, it must be hard. So now when you do it the second time, the fact that they only were able to see one card makes a lot of sense, because it was obviously difficult to see a card at all. The first time I didn't even get one. So now that the fact that I saw one card makes sense, and he asked me to think of one that I see. So obviously it's very difficult to see all these cards because they're moving so fast. So the fact that I was able to just see one of them, I'm just going to go with that one, and it makes perfect sense. They're not going to question why they only saw one card now, because the first time they didn't see any. So obviously it's difficult to see cards in this way. So the fact that I only saw one, well, I was lucky enough to see one. They're not going to think of it as he only showed me one now, right? So it totally changes the frame of this force. So that's very important. So the scripting sort of looks like this, right? This is the whole thing, right? So you want to say, all right, in a second, I'm just going to have you think of a card that you see when I go through the cards like this, all right? You ready? Yeah? Did you get one? No? It was a little too fast? All right, here we go. Got one? Perfect. And there I forced a card, and now I know the identity of that card, and we can move on with the trick. And what's so great about this, again, the force doesn't matter, so feel free to shuffle the deck between all of these quick dribbles. It just makes it feel out of your control, and it makes it feel less like a force, right? Which is really nice. Now, once you've got the force, so let's do it. King of clubs, right? So once I've forced the king of clubs, I'm just gonna instantly shuffle up those cards like that. So I do it, and I shuffle, because it doesn't matter where the king is. Now, to make sure I got a hit on the card that I want, after I do it the second time, I'll say, you have a card, yes? And they'll say yes. And then, if they don't get it the second time, just do it a third time, right? It's fine. If they didn't get one, then it even helps a bit. If they don't get it a second time, they'll feel even more pressure to see one a third time, and they'll be more susceptible to, responding to your force. When they get one, right, you ask them, so you have one, they'll say yes. And then you say, so you're thinking of one that you saw. You reiterate that, because now they'll say yes to that question if they in fact are thinking of one that they saw. And you know for a fact that the only one they could have seen is the one you forced, because it's literally impossible to see another card going like that, right? So if they say no to that, then you'll know they made up a card, and you can say, okay, well, just think of one that you see this time and just go into it again, right? So you have that sort of a second try. 99% of the time, people are going to follow your instructions, and so that's just a second confirmation that you say, you're thinking of one that you saw, right? They'll say yes, and now you know you've hit your force. Don't worry, there's still another safety net if you're still worried about that we'll get into in the other uses and ideas. So now you've forced that card on your first spectator, and it's brilliant because they're just thinking of a card. So again, we're really going to emphasize this in a second. So now you turn to the next participant and you say, look, they could be thinking of any one of these cards. And as you spread through, I think it was the king of clubs that we forced. I'm trying to remember. Let's say it was the king of clubs, because I can't even remember. You're going to cull that king of clubs as you're saying, he could have thought of any one of these cards, and you close up. Now again, when you're culling a specific card, you always want to have patter to cover that. So here's the lines that you can use to get through the entire deck if it's all the way at the top. As you're turning to this person, you say, look, he could be thinking of any one of these cards, right? They're all different. I like to pause, break up my cull a bit. It doesn't feel like I'm searching for something that way. They're all different, as you can see, and he could be really thinking of any one of these cards. right? And that's all it takes, just those few statements, and you can get all the way through and call their card to the top. Okay? Now, this is very important. Okay, this next step is very, very important. You're going to want to make this person feel like they're reading the mind of the other person. This will make it feel a lot more fair and make it feel like it was actually a feat of mind reading. Because if you just go and now force the king of clubs on this person, it's a cool trick, but it doesn't achieve the mind reading where they read each other's mind sort of effect. Here's what you have to be careful with. If you tell this person to read their mind and figure out what card they're thinking of, they're going to get a card in their head, and obviously their cards aren't going to match. So you need to word this carefully. What you say is, I want you to just look at them in the eyes and get a sense of what card they might be thinking of. This will prevent them from just blurting out a card, and it will also just, they won't really know how to react to that sentence, so they'll just start, kind of looking at them and thinking. Then this is very important, you want to say, I think you've got it. Right? You tell them that they have it, whatever they're doing. You say, I think you've got it. Here, just reach in and touch a card. Okay? And what I've done in the meantime, remember, I called that card to the top. I'm just going to do a slip shuffle. So I just use my thumb and I pull that card into my hand, the king of clubs, and I shuffle off on top. So now it's at the bottom, right? While I say, I just want you to look at them and get a sense of what card he might be thinking of. Try to read his mind or something like that, right? I just want you to get a sense. Don't say, think of what card he's thinking of or whatever. Try to figure out what card he's thinking of. Just say, get a sense for what card he's thinking of. Wait a few seconds, look at him and say, I think you've got it. Here, just reach in and touch one. He can touch this one, he can touch this one, but no matter which one he touches, it will be the king of clubs. So there, we're going to execute the spread force. So I'll link a video up to my handling of the spread force because it is the cleanest force out there, in my opinion, better than the classic force. So they can touch any card they want, this one right here, and it is, of course, the king of clubs. So what we're doing there is we're spreading and we're culling that card off the bottom. Now, if you wanted to, you could just load this to like the 4th position. If you don't like culling off the bottom, and cull it out from there, it doesn't matter. As long as you get it culled underneath the spread. Then you're spreading, you're doing a nice long spread. Whatever you say, just touch a card, right? Remember the phrasing, I said, I think you've got it, just reach in and touch one. They'll touch one. Now when they touch, let's say this one, you pull up everything at the card they touch, you thumb it, you say this one right here, and then you place this card against this packet, you put your thumb here. This will give you the leverage you need to push this card forward and it'll square up with this edge here. And you do that in the action of coming up. And you have this nice wall, so it makes it feel like you're hiding it from everyone else, so it's very justified, right? So you're just kind of showing them over there so only they see it. Now, I like to have them take the card out, so what I do is as they see it, right now, there's a really nice moment. I've shown them the card they're thinking of, so I can just have them take it, and it's impossible that it's a switch, right? If I just did this face down, and then I said, here, take out your card, and then they look at it, it's not as clean. Whereas if I do the force way in advance and I come up, they've seen the card, they know what the card is now, so there's no way I can switch it, so now I can just hand it to them cleanly. So the kind of handling for that is, after they've seen it, I pause a second, I say, you've got it? They'll say yes, and I say, here, actually take it out. And I just tilt this hand in, use the middle finger to up jog it as I close the spread, and I reach my hand forward and they just pull it out, right? And that's how the force works. So at full speed, cull it underneath the deck. They touch this one right here. I say, here, you got that one? Actually, here, just take it out for me. And they take it out, okay? So the scripting is, I want you to look in his eyes. Just get a sense for what card you feel he might be thinking of. I think you've got it. Here, just reach in and touch one. This one right here. All right, you see that? Actually, here, just do a favor. Just take it out for me. So now they're holding onto the card. What you're gonna do is go back to the participant who is thinking of a card, and you say, for the first time, now you go back to the participant who was just thinking of a card, and this is when you do a bit of recapping. You say, think about this. You shuffled the deck and you're just thinking of any card that you want. You could have thought of any card. They'll nod their head in agreement because they could have thought of any card and they're just thinking of it. They never said it out loud. This is one of those really nice kind of dual reality type moments where they have to say yes because there's no lie in your statement, but to everyone else, it really does feel like a thought of card. So again, you just say, you're just thinking of any card you want, right? You could have thought of any card. They're all different. You shuffled and you're just thinking of one, right? They'll nod their head and you say, for the first time, what's the card you're just thinking of? They'll say king of clubs. You have that other spectator turn around the card and it's the king of clubs. Incredible trick, so amazing. Now, This is the way that I like to perform it. I think there's a really nice thing about having the second spectator take out the card, because then they can say it out loud and then everyone else in the audience knows what to expect, and so everyone will react. Whereas if they just turn this card around and then that person confirms that it's right, they're the only person who can really react to it, right? It's a lot more of anticipation if they say the card they were thinking of was the king of clubs and then he shows that he got it right. But like I said, you could do this where both people just are kind of thinking of the card and say it out loud. So I'm going to talk about that in the other uses and ideas. So just quickly, I want to run through the scripting again really quick. So you have a spectator shuffle the cards. When they give the cards back to you, you say, so in a second, I'm just going to have you think of a card that you see. I'm just going to go through the cards like that, and you're just going to think of any one that you want, okay? They respond yes. You say, all right, you ready? They say yes. You got one? They'll say no. Say, all right, let's try that again. You ready? I'll slow it down a bit this time. You got one? Now they should be thinking of the 8 of clubs. So then turn to spectator 2. Look, all these cards are different, right? And he could be thinking of any one of these cards. No one knows what card it is that he's thinking of, but he just has one in his head that he's thinking of, right? Now I want you to look at him in the eyes and just try to get a sense of what card you think that he might be thinking of. In that moment, I called the selection or the force card to the top, and I shuffle it off to the bottom with a slip shuffle. Now I say, I think you've got it. Here, just reach in and touch one. They reach in, I say, this one right here. No, this one here, you got it? All right, perfect. Look at that, remember it? Actually here, just do me a favor and take that out. Now they're holding onto the card. I look back at spectator 1. So you're just thinking of a card. You could have chosen any card you want, and you're just thinking of it. All were different. You shuffled whatever you wanted, and you have one that only exists in your head. For the first time, what is the card you were just thinking of? They say 8 of clubs, and spectator 2 freaks out and reveals to everyone that they had picked the 8 of clubs. So time for some uses and other ideas. So I got a few cool ideas here. I want to talk about how you can frame this to make it feel like both spectators just thought of a card and they say it out loud at the same time, which is a super cool moment. I'm also going to cover a quick little idea and then the foolproof out that you can add into the scripting here in case something goes wrong. You'll never fail this trick, right? So first little thing, I just wanted to point something out here. So when you do the force, let me just do it quick. So 10 of hearts, right? Every time you do this, the 10 of hearts is going to be somewhere in the middle of the deck, right? So you can take off a good chunk from the top and bottom, and the force card's always going to be in the middle third, right? For the most, like it's always going to be right in the middle somewhere. So what you can do, remember, after you do the force, I said just give it a little shuffle. It makes it feel loose. It makes it feel, you know, like you don't have any control. So I'll do the force, and then I'll just do a little shuffle like this. If you just shuffle off the top cards real quick, you know, you get maybe a quarter of the deck and you just slap it back on top. That's all you need to do to make it feel like that sort of shuffle, right? What that's gonna do is it's not gonna move that 10 of hearts from the middle area of the deck, right? So just to keep in mind, and this is just a little tip, when you go for the cull, you know their card is always gonna be somewhere near the middle, okay? That's just a nice little tip to know that when you do this force, the card is always somewhere near the middle, and then you do a little shuffle like this, throw them back on top. You haven't changed the relative position of the 10 or whatever the chosen card is. So now when you go for the cull, just know that their card's gonna be somewhere in the middle. So now you have a sense of roughly where it is, and you can, you know, have a little bit more ease when doing your cull. So that's a quick idea. Now, how to frame this so it is a truly thought of card on both sides. So the first bit's gonna be the same. You know, you're gonna say, I just want you to think of a card that you see. That's fine. This person is totally just thinking of a card, and that's totally fine. The change is with the vocabulary you use when you come to spectator 2. You're still going to use the spread force. You're going to say this. You say, I want you to get a sense of the card that this person's just thinking of, right? You do the same thing. You say, here, reach in and touch one. They reach in, they touch one. You show them, and you say, all right, just remember that card. Just keep that card in your head. And again, it's really nice that you're only showing them. This feels like, you know, you just want them to peek it really quickly. You say, you got it, and you close the deck, and you say, here, shuffle that up. Really, it doesn't change much at this point. Everything's the same, except you're not pulling the card out. The big script change comes in the recapping. So, again, you do the same. I want you to get a sense of whatever card it is. You execute the force, and they just peek it, and you say, just get that card in your head, remember that for me. You hand it out. Now, you come back to spectator 1, and this is you recap to them first to provide a bit of a time delay before you recap to spectator 2. So you say, think about this. You shuffled, and you're just thinking of any card. You saw all the cards, and you're just thinking of one. They're all different. You could be thinking of any card you want. So you have a card that only exists in your head. Turn back to spectator 2. You say, the deck was shuffled, and you say, and you chose any card you want to think of. You just are thinking of any card you could have chosen. and you're just thinking of that card. So you see how I didn't say you touched a card and now you're thinking of it. I say you chose any card you want, so it feels like it was a choice, even though it was a physical choice, it can easily be misconstrued for a mental choice. So I say you chose any card you want, you're just thinking of it. This card only exists in your mind, right? And that's true, everything I've said is true, so they'll both agree. And now I've framed it that they both just thought of a card, and now you have this beautiful moment where you say, on 3, I both want you to name the card that you're just thinking of. 1, 2, 3, they'll both yell out 10 of hearts or whatever happens to be. That is a super cool presentational tip that you can use as well, that I do use from time to time. That's really, really nice depending on the situation. So here is the kind of goal, the scripting change you guys can make for the foolproof method. If you're worried about that visual dribble force, if you're really worried about it. So how I normally present this with the rest of the patter, I would say, you know, I want 2 people with a really strong connection to come up here and help me. We'll see if you guys have as good of a connection as you think. You're gonna try to read each other's minds or whatever. So something like that, that's how I set it up. I have 2 people come up, I perform the routine, they establish that connection or whatever. But if you reverse that and you do the opposite, you actually get a really nice out. So if you say, I want 2 people who have no connection whatsoever, 2 people who they don't think they go well together, they don't think they could read each other's mind, they don't have a good connection. Now I get 2 people with no connection to help me. So now already everyone understands that if this doesn't work, it's because they have a bad connection. You don't need to say that. You could say, you know, if this goes wrong, that's just proof that you guys do not have a good connection. I don't like to say that, I wouldn't recommend it. You just say, we're gonna test your connection, right? But everyone knows it's not expected to work because they've said they don't have a good connection. You do the routine, the force doesn't go right. And the biggest reason I've found that happens is because someone, you know, you execute it properly, they see the Jack of Diamonds, but they don't register Jack of Diamonds. They register either diamond court card, red court card, whatever. So then they just kind of go Queen of Diamonds, King of Diamonds, like they just kind of almost fill in the blank. And they believe that's what they saw, so there's nothing you can really do about it. It does happen from time to time. Let's say person 1 thinks they saw the 5 of hearts, but you know it was the 4 of hearts, so you force 4 of hearts onto this person. They are holding the 4 of hearts. You say for the first time, what's the card you're thinking of? They say 5 of hearts, you turn it around, it's not a match. Now it makes perfect sense. You say, well, as you can see, you guys are right, you don't have that great of a connection, right? Like it's implied, you were just testing the connection. And then you say, now let me show you what happens when people actually have a perfect connection. And you get 2 other people with a perfect connection, right? You can even keep one of the people from before and you just say, hey, so who do you think you do have a good connection with? You switch out one of the participants and you do it a second time. This time, I would just replace the visual dribble force with a different force. For me, that would probably be a second deal force. And I'd probably move the spread force first. So all I'd do here is, as they'd shuffle the deck and I'd get it back, I'd peek the bottom card, 3 of hearts. I'd go, I'd say touch one, they'd touch this one. I say, all right, just remember that card for me, right? I force the 3 of hearts. I say, just keep that in your head. I can play this off as a thought of card using the scripting from earlier. I come back to this person. I shuffle it up and I say, look, he could be thinking of any one of these cards. It only exists in his mind. I don't know which one it is. I call it to the top and I say, all right, hold your hand out for me. And I say, whenever it feels right, just look at them, get a sense for what their card is, and whatever it feels right, just say stop. I execute the deals. They say stop and I say, all right, you stopped on 1 card. Whenever you got that feeling, you chose any card to think of and it only exists in your head. For the first time, what's the card you're just thinking of? 3 of hearts. 3 of hearts. And right there you have a perfect 100% routine because you can use a perfect surefire force. And of course, if you hit perfectly on the original one with the visual dribble force, you have a miracle and you just say, well, I guess your guys' connection is stronger than you thought or whatever, right? So this is a totally foolproof method and it really is amazing. Such a killer trick. This is Mind Reader. I hope you guys enjoyed. All right, guys, that was Mind Reader. That is an amazing trick that I've been doing a lot recently. It's a great worker for the streets. Something you can do it totally in the hands. Awesome for like street magic walk around performance. Super killer. People love the plot of connection and mind reading. So it is like a bit of a mentalism trick too, but you're making the spectators feel like they're reading each other's minds. So my biggest tip, you don't want to make participant 2 feel like they're supposed to come up with their own card in their head, because you could get at the end them saying, well, that wasn't the card I had in my head, right? You know, the one that they ended up picking. So you want to be careful, right? Follow the scripting that I gave you guys. It is very important. It really makes it feel like a thought of cards, sets up everything nicely. And I really like that last moment with the perfect out, right? It's such a killer routine when you do it all together, and it's foolproof. and you have the chance for the miracle, right? So you can be a little bit bold and then fall back if something happens to go wrong. And this isn't that bold, but it is a little bit, and you'll see how powerful it gets when it hits. It's just absolutely killer. So I hope you guys like all the touches, all the ideas with Mind Reader. Let me know if you have any ideas of your own, if you have any thoughts on this trick. Let me know if you go and perform it, because trust me, it is so killer. So I got a lot of awesome tutorials coming, more street magic from Ottawa. I'm gonna get some here in Toronto. You know, lots of great content to come. So let me know what you guys want to see, you know, in the future. So yeah, with all that said, I hope you guys loved this video, loved this routine. Make sure you go try it out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.